You're very welcome back. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why athletes, elite athletes specifically, would track everything. Um, I'll even explain what tracking everything means, but in a very positive way. Um, I would say that a score you can't explain is not a win. Similar to business, delivery of a project, not understanding how you manage to deliver it, it'll be very upsetting to me. Some people might be happy with it, but I really wouldn't be happy. Um, in shooting, the score tells you what happened, but actually it's the process that tells you why it happened. And again, in our scoring, in our competitions, you have to shoot 60 shots in an hour and 15. And if you're hitting lucky shots, well, they'll go as easily as they came because luck doesn't stay with you, not under stressful environments. Luck won't deliver projects in stressful environments. Um, 10.9 is the holy grail of the shot, the scores. But the reality is, I've hit some of those and I've actually been very unhappy because I didn't earn them. I didn't understand what it was went into them, and what it meant was I couldn't repeat it. Um, Also, a 10.9 can be misleading. It can be a bad shot. We work on what we call groupings. So the idea of a grouping is you continuously follow a process where the bullet lands continuously, wherever it lands continuously, and then you move that onto the bullseye. You don't aim particularly at the bulls. You do aim at the bullseye, but the rifle, if you think about it too, so the rifle has recoil. That means that it lifts when you pull the trigger. So getting that to reliably lift and land in the same place every time, that's going to be a complex enough one. If you're getting 10.9s without knowing how you got them, next one will be a 9, next one could be an 8. But what we're trying to do is get a grouping with, say, starting with two bullets in the same place. It's an indication that you have a natural alignment. Now you change your sights, and now you're able to move that natural alignment onto the bullseye. The clock is broken twice a day, even when it's not working, it's right if you think about it. So 10.9, yeah, that could be perceived as a great shot, but if you can't follow it up with a high 10 after that, then it's not a great shot, and it was what we call a flyer. Um, I wouldn't say this is a sports science lesson. I wouldn't say it's a systems philosophy. It's not a method of honest feedback. Um, it's a diagnostic approach to performance if I want. I'm not data obsessed. I'm really not. But data is a big factor. I view every element of what I do in shooting as data. Where a shot for me, a score, it's data. It's not a number. It's a data point. Um, I think something businesses would benefit, organizations would benefit from analyzing key elements, but real elements that have a real output, not vanity metrics. Um, I don't think it's a very complex thing either. I'll explain a little bit about the type of metrics. So a lot of the scores, you'll see a score if you're watching a competition like this, all you get to see is the 10.9 or the 10.8 or a 10 point something or any number shows up on a screen. But what I'm actually doing is I'm managing the process and the quality of the process. So it'll be hold is one of the things. The rifle needs to sit in a position, how well it held. If it's bouncing all over the place and I get a 10.9, not happy about that because that would mean that the next one could also be a 10.9 or more likely it'll be a 9 point something. Trigger pressure. Um, if I don't manage that, it'll actually pull the sights off of the bullseye. So there's a whole load of elements in there. Sight alignment. You look down and you see that the sights are aligned with the bullseye. But if you're at the wrong angle, you're pointing onto the bullseye, but actually the angle you're at now has changed. So there are quite a lot of metrics in there, but they're not vanity, they're key. The score tells you what happened, but actually the process tells you why it happened. Um, what I'd say is I've got three principles for in my little operating system. A good shot is the outcome of a good process would be one principle. The score confirms it, but the score doesn't create it. Own the noise. Every variable, everything that introduces inconsistency is mine to identify and correct. This is the beauty of this system. No one else holds the rifle. I've played hurling, intercounty hurling. I've played football in my time as well. The beauty of this is if it's not working right, I'm the one that's responsible for it. Because, and the beauty of that might sound odd, I'm actually in a great place because I can actually fix it. I'm not reliant on someone else to fix the problem. And then the last thing is ownership. We'll call it celebrating the complete, not just the good. I own the good, the bad, and all the ugly that goes in between it. I'm very open, some would say too open, in terms of what happened in the shots. Some of the stuff I will make a very basic mistake. It's because I've overlooked an element in my process. Some people might go, oh, a coach will jump on that. And I have seen all the different types of coaches, and some will want to be right, and some will want to help. By that I mean some will want to go in, but I told you to do something, and actually some will go, so how do we stop that happening the next time? Because there's more learning in that situation. Similar to the management system I've had in information technology departments, create a safe environment. I've always had one rule: if you make a mistake, come and tell me. If you hide it, you'll have to figure out how you're going to tell everybody else. I've no problem taking it in the neck if we make an honest mistake. What I would have a problem with, because we don't know why things happen. So something happens, a server goes down. What we realize is somebody, an example I would have had is someone pulled a server down so they could put a DAT drive on one. Years ago now at this stage. And the sadness in the whole thing, I knew it had been shut down. And instead of it falling over, as what I was told by the technician, what they wanted to do was put the DAT drive into a server during working hours instead of having to stay after work. They'd been expected to do this for nearly a month and it hadn't been done. And the reality was, for some reason, that person didn't feel safe enough to say to me that they actually pulled the server down. Now, I've always tried to create a safe place, and what I enjoy with coaches is when they create a safe place, I can be open and vulnerable and talk about the scores that I have made mistakes with, whether it be an early shot release, whether it be an incorrect butt plate position, for example, giving me a different angle of approach to the target. If I was asked to myself, asking myself at each stage, did I check something to make sure it was okay, or did I just go, it'll be grand? I'll tell a coach, because the coach can't help me unless they know what they're dealing with. And equally, I celebrate the good with the bad and try and reduce the bad. The tracking, yeah, there's a score, definitely a score, but I'll see the scores at the end of a competition. I don't actually see the scores during a competition. But what I am watching is the process, the inputs behind that score. Are they traceable, repeatable, and improvable, to be honest? I need feedback to be able to feed back to my coach and to myself in a healthy way. It's not about beating myself up over the mistakes. There are no stupid mistakes. They're just a mistake is something you do once, though, and I don't do that many where there's a second one, or I haven't learned or understood it. That can happen too. I'm honest about my shooting. I'm honest with my coach. I'm honest with myself, because we all have that 2 o'clock in the morning moment where there's only you in the mirror in the bathroom. You can lie to everyone outside it. You can't lie to yourself. How I do it, how I analyze or how I work through the process. The rifle, if we take a rifle, then if a rifle sits on a bench, it's always going to shoot in the one place all the time if it was clamped, we'll say. There's no zero, there's no noise, there's no introduction of noise into the rifle. It does what it does perfectly. Then I know that I've got certain elements, so it's got to be attached to me, and this is where all the noise comes in. And I'll keep introducing the next step within the process until I see where the noise is being introduced. And then I back out one step and I work on that next step to reduce the noise coming in. Noise, by the way, is the the site, going all over the place. It should literally sit there. And when I say sit there, we're talking about zero point 0.1 of a millimeter sitting there, 0.01 of a millimeter actually. That sitting there is quite a big job. But what I do is I eliminate the step that introduces the noise. And that's an example of improving the process, for example. I've one experience as well, and this can happen. This is one that really, it's a funny one because it tells me about the quality of the materials I'm using. So I have training pellets. I have with fun training, and I've got competition, and the difference being not just the price, but actually um, what I would say is the attention to quality control in them. The fun ones, I'm really, and actually, I don't, to be honest, I don't do a lot of shooting for fun anymore because shooting is fun. I try to train at a level and have every time I touch the rifle, it's hard to actually switch out of a process when you learn it of quality, which, for example. But what I had was I had a box of pellets. I left some behind. I had 10, I think, from a previous competition, and I got a box of pellets and mixed them. That was my learning and my mistake. Good learning, by the way. Um, and I was firing and I was finding it very difficult to understand why the pellets weren't going where they should. When you get used to shooting, I shoot about 1,000 rounds a week. You get used to things happening. You get used to little groupings that happen, anomalies within groupings. But I was seeing, for example, I was shooting out in the tens, early tens, 10.0, 10.1, but I was shooting left of bull. And even when I was aligning the sights, because once you get a grouping, you move the sights, it wasn't adjusting appropriately. And then suddenly I got a 10.7 and another 10.7. And I looked down and thought, what's happening here? And what had happened was I had strayed into my performance pellets from my sport ones, we'll call it. And then I thought, well, I need to be sure that's two 10.7. Now, at 10.7 level, by the way, it's quite precise. You could shoot 10.0 on the outskirts of a circle, easy. But when you get to 10.7, you're very close to dead center. There's less variance there. So if you're shooting those, you can be sure your process is working quite well. And I thought, I'll check it again. So I took up another pellet from that line because I do them in certain lines of a sequence. And it went 10.7. And I thought, you know what, that's what's wrong, is the pellets that I've picked up here are not the same quality control checks done on them. And I put down the rifle and picked up the rifle again and put in another one, and I got a 10.8. The process finally confirmed itself. It was one of those moments. So my process at that stage was that strong and that secure that actually the variance was in something outside of my process. And that'll happen. But the process was strong enough to carry through, is probably what I'm trying to say. Similarly, in business, the processes deliver output, but when they're not delivering output and you know your process is strong, you know the input's incorrect, I'd say that if anyone was to take anything away, a good score you can't explain is not a win. I wouldn't sleep well at night knowing, for example, everyone turning on, or in a comms room, someone turning something on and off again to make it work. I don't feel, until I know, we'll get it back up, but then we have to analyze, because I wouldn't be sleeping well at night knowing that we just got something working because we powered it off and powered it on again. No. Similarly in a shot, 10.9 without knowing that that was a 10.9 because of your process, wouldn't be happy with that either. Unexplained success creates false confidence. It does. Um, be honest. Be honest with yourself and be honest with the team. It's important to create that space. Whoever is leading the team, whoever is the coach in any environment, create a safe place where people can be honest. It's the only way it's going to get better. If people feel they're going to be slaughtered when they open their mouth, and um, they'll hold back. They'll hold back. The growth, their growth, and the team's growth will definitely be stunted. The last thing you need is someone with "and I told you so" sitting there. So I would say culture is a very important thing within an organization, as in a training environment. If it's a culture of support and honesty, and then it'll definitely be something that progresses. And if it's one of judgment, everyone chokes down on that one. I don't enjoy anyone with "and I told you so," and even I've heard that one. I would say if you can build in shooting, if I use the shooting one in business, build an environment where eights and nines are shared as readily as the tens. Everyone wants to be on a winning team, but a winning team is something that continues after the project, for example. So I would say culture, culture and environment, create a safe place. The failure should be seen as data. The, it really should. Whatever happened in there, it's purely data, and data can be improved on. And I'd say too, the earlier you put your hand up and say you got it wrong, the earlier we can do something about it. That's also the other side of it. I'd say that feedback system's not a threat to authority. I'd say it's actually the mechanism of authority. I'd like to thank you for stepping by.